I'm Shirley Anderson. I am the Vice President of IAPS, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you Margaret Larlham. You may have seen her around. She is the judge of this exhibit, and so she selected all of the winning paintings in here, and she's going to be talking a little bit about each painting. And I don't know how you want to take questions as you go, or wait till the end.
I prefer to wait till the end.
Okay, so let's prefer to wait till the end to ask questions, and she'll probably have some time then. So, Margaret.
Thank you, Shirley.
But you're used to that, right? You're used to that.
Yes, I'm getting used to it. So, who are we and where are we is the question that I ask myself as the judge. And the answers are somewhere in the mystery of these paintings, in this exhibition. They are all treatments of who we are, how our aliveness sits with ourselves, and where we find ourselves on earth in this time. So, the other thing is we've all gathered here. We've come from so far, at such a diversity of experiences and techniques and ways we work, that it's again an epicenter. And I was thinking how wonderful it is. It's like the answer to apprenticing yourself, as one did in the medieval times, to master painters. The opportunity to come and gather round and glow and share and communicate and encourage and then grow from the other people that are here is without parallel. It's really the most extraordinary thing. Here I am, the judge, and it was only yesterday, it seemed to me, like 10 years or something, that I came for my first IAPS and took a workshop with Richard McKinley, and he did a wonderful underpainting. And then he said, and now we dance. And that was so liberating, because you come and you think, oh, it's all about I've got to learn how to do this and that and the other thing. But it's not. There's work, there's rigor, there's figuring out things, but then there's release and the dance, and the painting itself speaks to you. The channels are two ways. They go back and forth, So I'm going to show you a little bit, because the paintings speak in tongues. They are like shamans. They don't tell you exactly the truth of things. They talk in ambiguities. But I would try and focus a little bit on gesture, on the touch of people that I noted in the paintings that I selected. I think a lot of the dance comes from my own background in dance a long time ago, where I studied delicacy as opposed to strength. And you can see that in a mark. You can see when you've got and you can see when you've got shik, shik, shik. And I've been watching Corey Pitkin this morning. His mark is like an insect. It just kind of lands somewhere. It's exploratory. It's not necessarily fixed focus. As maybe that there's a painting on the other side there. Oh well, we'll talk about that when we get there. Okay, all right. So I thought what we'd do is we'd walk down that way and then come back this way, and then I would go to the paintings that had received awards and comment on each one of them. Okay? Who we are and where are we is really about portraits and landscapes. So that's the general classification of the kind of paintings that are here. And this particular painting is the origin. It's the origin, it's the wild landscape. And that attracts me a great deal. For some reason I'm always searching for it, whether it be just on the edges of town, in the cracks in the pavement, that nature's force is a comment. In the old days, I would have thought when I was young, your age, that nature paintings were a bit passé. But now they've become crucial, especially in this time. If you can suck out to somebody the value and the reminder of the planet and the earth that we inhabit, so much the better, you know. It's become not so much the better, it's critical. And this particular one shows so much of the shaping of the earth with the elements and the masses and the water and the sky and the earth and everything. So it's a fit beginning. It's kind of like Moses, isn't it? Striking the rock and then the water's gushing out. Technically, it's very varied, which is interesting. It's really fascinating. It pulls you into the picture and you kind of get taken along with the water. And it's very experiential in that way. And so I thought it was really a worthy piece for an award. One of nature, and one of the forces of nature that what attracted me at the beginning was really the power of this rock. I mean, it was just so lovely and sharp and dark and strong against the ephemeral fog and distant atmosphere. In technical things, the warm moving to a cool also is very, very attractive, you know. I find it quite interesting because I am an eager plein air painter. I paint outdoors a lot. I thought that this was a plein air. And then I found it interesting to read that it was from a photo, but I do know that this painter does do plein air. It was a photo through a train window. And so it's a view of the world. I do know that the painter is a geologist who knows about rocks. So everything you know about contributes to what you do. You know, if you're a surfer, like Jeff Sewell, who's a thing, that will contribute. If you've been a patchwork person, whatever you've done in your life will come up and support your art. It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? This one is a very striking piece. It had the good fortune to be on this board, and you come in the door and you go, oh, I'm somewhere. I'm in Old Town, you know. And it's not necessarily Old Town, in fact it's Mexico. But what is so powerful, it's a very powerful perspective piece. And simplified sun and shadow driving your interest down that way. And again, the mixture of where we are, people, what people have done, and then nature's clamor and nature's reach and this chaos that lives with us. So I thought it was really a beautiful painting. Also the rhythm of this warm red and then another strip of it there helps to carry your eye in that direction. It's very painterly and very, very, I don't know what this is, I just noticed it's a little car.
It's like a truck or a car,
Yeah, very nice. Surprises. Okay, so a social commentary here that everybody knows the story of, and it smacks right at you of what we went through. The images we saw on social media. It's so exciting and surprising to have a painting done of that kind of constant imagery that we had, and also the tribute to kind of resilience in the face of this, whatever was going on, of these three focused but completely protected individuals, and the radiance of the light shining in down into this landscape of glass, which is reflecting again nature and the sky. I mean, it's just so thought through, and I just it is of our time and tells us where we are now, and that's what you want to do. I think when you leave your paintings behind, you've got to somehow. You can't make it happen, but you can take in where you are more. You know, you can't preach. It's not preaching, I don't think. It's a social commentary. And what is so arresting too, in the painterly terms, is the coloring, the blue and the shadings of blue. I think that plastic there is like killer, isn't it? I mean, painting those plastic, getting that sense of the form through such subtle shading. It's wicked, and you know, I want to go home and paint plastic too. It's really stunning. It's a stunning piece of work. This is what I want to say too, is that when a piece of art jumps out at you, it's a wonderful thing, you know, and most of what I can say is that most successful work seems to have a life of their own, has a life from within the painting. The paintings are alive, like your painting is very alive, but there's an aliveness to the painting. Some paintings are still about technique, but some paintings just sing out something. And then that's when I looked at this. But to tell you the truth, I was also interested in the commentary, the connection between those women in the masks and then these women with their jewels. And that's our time. Our time and the validity of what we are sometimes is about jewels. It's about what we're wearing and, you know, how we perceive, what we would like people to perceive of us is very important. It's always been important. And in painting, you see the evidence of that. You see Gainsborough, or you see the people and they're wearing their fine clothes and everything. So it's nothing new. It's part of that whole tradition. But it does show a different kind of, like people, portraits. Is that me making boom boom? It is, hey? So, portraits. That connect to being assertive and exhibiting who we are is the reason of it, as opposed to portraits that are revealing the inner life and the condition of man. And they're all here in this exhibition. I read with interest that it was staged, that it's costume, that you had two models and she dressed them up in costume. So it's quite an interesting thing. I wondered who these Russian princesses were, or whatever it is. Again, the simplicity of her mark making and the very bold shadows, the very bold contrasts of the dark and the skin are very exciting. And then as the gestures, particularly those gestures and the echoes, the complexity of doing two vertical studies like that, sets up quite a complicated composition. And she's made it she has made it very interesting to move around those, even though they're the same elements, you know, this jewel and that jewel. And then the lightness at the back there has really, I think we all do that to a certain extent. We all work on everything, and then at the end we kind of go, and then the piece sort of comes out, you know. But it is very nice. I don't know, yeah. So that's enough talk about that one. This is it's such an emotional painting, you know. A lot of the work appeals for its conceptual idea, other for the reality of what you're seeing, and some for the emotional appeal. And it's got through Mark, which has a residue of emotion in it, because even though the hair is the same white hair, the mark is quite hard, and the mark is symbolic. It's not trying to be realistic fur. She hasn't blended anything, and she's left the mark as I'm etching the hair of my mother, you know. And somehow that is in there, the mark. And, well, the story, you will have been able to read the story, and the artist can tell you more about the story. But she is doing what everyone is doing, I suppose, is that like painting what you do, what you know, what you love, what you go through, is such a key part of being an artist, you know. I mean, we can go through the steps and borrow the language of other people for a while, but you have to more or less keep pushing through to something that is very personal to you. It's a very personal painting. You're allowed to speak. What would you like to say about that?
The week after my mother died, I just did a whole series. The week after my mother died, I did a whole series. And I did it for me. I didn't do it for any other reason, but to process her passing. We had a very complex relationship. And her cat, the story is there, but this cat followed her everywhere the last year of her life and hid under her walker and stuff so she wouldn't go anywhere without the cat knowing. Less than a week after my mother died, the cat died too. She just sat, and I have a picture in front of an empty chair and the cat sitting there just looking at the chair. And it helped me tremendously. And the marks, I'm sorry, are the fraying of a passing of one life from the physical life to the spiritual life. It still hits me. Yeah. I don't know. Thank you.
Did you write that for yourself? Was it somebody out there?
I know. Nobody's going to want a picture of my mother.
No, it is very beautiful. And you know, this atmospheric transitional, what she talks about, you know, passing through, is very evocative of the density of air and breath that's surrounding this really intimate moment between the animal and the woman. It's beautiful. Thank you, Terry. This one in the corner here. Again, from my theatrical background, I was struck with there's a story somewhere. But this the poignancy of this face, the moisture of the skin, has been captured so carefully with glazes, and a lovely, this cherry nose, and then the moving back from that, through the coolness. With all this information on the edge about the story, it's a very fascinating piece to me. The glasses too, sort of sitting atop there, are very, in a strange way, distracting, but again, like the hospital picture, indicate life or the world outside, the interior life. I read the story here whoop. It again was a short encounter with somebody. The painter met a Swedish man, they talked, he did a sketch, he took some photos, and this painting comes from that. So again, the treasures that are within connection in our very short time with each other are equally important. You know, it's not to say that you've got to live your whole life with something. It can be as brief as that to reach some sort of question about who we are. You know, the fragility or whatever is going on in that piece. It's really also a very, very dear piece. It is a terrible omission. It's just a most extraordinary painting. You know, it's unlike anything as they're all very different, but this is you get hit by what is that? You know, it's just so extraordinary. I mean, it's pointillist. The marks are not dot dot dot. They're so deliberate. The deliberate pointillism, the choices of color, supporting the most haunting image of a child. You know, it's not as though it's like the ladies, who does the pointillist painting? Syrah. You know, ladies in the beach and the da-da-da. There's something there's driving focus of this child. And it is really, really powerful. What I did notice, or I wanted to share with you, is that diagonal, the power of a diagonal painting, as opposed to those two women that are in the vertical, who are stable. They're stable, I am here. This diagonal takes you to a search. And in landscape too, if you've got a diagonal thrust, you can feel the pull of the earth and the horizon simultaneously. So it's a favorite place for me to hang out in, is the diagonal. A lot of people do that. I mean, they look at, when they compose a painting, they divide up their painting and then they put the focus in a third and the rule of thirds and so on. And so that kind of makes an implied diagonal, because you don't want to put the painting, you don't want to put your focus boom in the middle unless you want to, unless it's perfect, unless there's a reason for it. But I think that also adds to the painting. I don't know, the treatment of the hair. There's also an animalistic quality about it that I find really, really fascinating. In the same way as animals look at you without any social, except dogs that you love, you know what I mean? They'll look at you, okay? But most animals don't bother to kind of temper their look. And that she has that look, which makes me feel that the story is there's hardship, you know, that there's hardship in life, and how powerful the artist is to track that and to communicate it. Kelly Maluka's Fresh Fruits of the Keyboard. I thought, again, how arresting it was. I was fascinated by the notes. I mean, you see the symbols of notes and like indicators of music, also indicators of a sound that you can kind of somehow see a funnel of sound. And have you read the story at all? Well, I happened to speak to her afterwards, and again, it's a story of a boy that she knows who is autistic or has some disability, who's genius at playing instruments, and was given some kind of a harpsichord, which the boy asked if she could keep the harpsichord in her studio. And she said, for how long? He said, well, I don't have anywhere else to put it. So I ask you, because I asked myself whether I would do such a thing. And I thought to myself, no, I would say no. You cannot do that. That would drive me crazy. If I had somebody sitting in there with a harpsichord, what do you think? But I said, and is it still there? It's still there. The boy comes and plays the harpsichord. That's where this comes from.
Wow.
You know, it's not from some guy going boo, 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 which is what I thought it was. Anyway, it's story. It's all theatre. It's life passing through to land up in an image. Oh, it is so arresting. The sort of atmospheric approach, and it's originally a vase of flowers with a deliberate intention to lose. I'm so sorry about this. With a deliberate intention to lose, whether it's hydrangeas or whatever it is, because that's a word, and the word gets in the way of what she's trying to get, which is some kind of evocation. It's almost like the power of auras or rocks or mysterious influences of things, as opposed to looking at a painting like that one over there, which is so lovely and sharp and delightfully roses. You see, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous painting. But in this one, there's been a deliberate attempt to go to some sort of the mystery, to approach the mystery. And so the technique matches that. The technique is very mucky and very three-dimensional. She's applied all sorts of under somethings here. And in pastel, those are very exciting when we find out, you know, you swish over something and then you get left with this little, where did that come from? It's so gorgeous, you know, it's such a wonderful thing. Until you do use it too much, you know, that you've seen that when you've seen other people and you think they never got over the surprise of it, you know, they never got over it. It's still there. But she loved, I mean, that's beautiful. It's drawing a lot of attention. But also the light through color is drawing a lot of attention. Another thing about this piece is the way she's framed it, of course, as a piece of painting in a box, and just floating in space like that, which again is another important thing of what we're doing in the modern world, is revealing a little bit more about what's going on as you're making the painting. You reveal the paper, you reveal maybe the little blobs there, you don't wipe them out entirely. They're part of the process. The archaeology of you as an artist, it's permitted to allow that to come through so that you can see the phases of what has been happening. It's one of those paintings that it doesn't allow you to go past without noticing it. It grabs you just like that. Has malevolent flowers. Those flowers aren't like gentle in the vase flowers. They're kind of going, come, let me seduce you. Let me just lick you and kind of suck your blood. They are the most extraordinary flowers. They have such amazing passion in them. And the format that she's got here, this little thin window, is also so interesting because she has been made it interesting in terms of different views of the same plant. And she's also shown the bud, you know, where it's come from. But she's sort of inviting us almost like we are the insects, we are the bee, we are the, you know, we're flying past, and that world is for us to go into. It's just absolutely extraordinary. I think people know her detail and her interest in flowers. I mean, she has a tradition of painting flowers. And she says this is a Bonbach's tree, which also surprised me. It's actually a slice of a tree. It's a kind of a tree that doesn't grow in California. So I wouldn't know it. Yeah. I mean, all the technical mastery that you want to know is in this painting. So if you want to really develop an old master technique, you could just sit here and apprentice yourself to a corner of this painting and learn an amazing amount. You know, I don't see strokes. There's no Terry Lynn strokes there. There's not, it's so blended. They're so glazed. The edges are so softened. The color is so saturated. And yet it moves. There's such movement in each leaf, not just one boom leaf. There's just an incredible diversity within those red flowers. What do you think?
Yeah.
Amazing, eh? This one does have little bumblebees in it. And as a judge, I had so many, it was razor thin. It's razor thin. All these paintings. This painting. It's like I'm humble before this painting. I want to bow down and cry and think I never paint again, because it's so consummate. It should have also won Best of Show, as so many of these paintings did, appeal to me, because they appeal to all different sides of yourself, That's what's going on. But my search was a little bit about the where we are now as the juror. So I kind of leaned a little away from that to immediacy. I was looking for immediate moments. And this one appealed to me for that reason. The flowers here have grown in defiance of some harsh condition. They're not in a garden. They've made their way through the tangle of existence, through grass that hasn't been cut back. They're reaching up to the light. And like nature has in most of the paintings that I've chosen, like Jacob's paintings are very much also have the wildness, the spirit of wildness comes out of the paintings. And those ones appeal to me a great deal, and I leaned towards them. Even although I have to admit that I am humbled by so much more than just what I picked. I love the work. I love Tony Allen's work. It's just, he's so powerful. The sort of masses that he lays, and the confidence that he has in which he kind of gets those chipped strokes and the crispness against all those masses is also very, very appealing, but I just thought he's won too many awards. To tell the truth, there's that goes on in your brain is that, the young people need to get the awards. Two paintings here. There's Corey's, and then there's this one, the Queen Sergei. Right, again, so in this theme of the portraits, the introversion and the inner life is reflected in Corey's. The masked life is reflected in here, but the attitude here is, maybe it's the same thing as what's going on in there, but I don't think so. There's so much choice in where those fingers are. And I mean, the the nails and the glittering jewelry and the colored hair and the glasses all speak to a lifestyle of empowerment. You know, it's empowerment. It's like, I own this. This is moi. And we're all subject to that. You know, you get a little something, you get your diamonds in there, and you go, moi, I am. We, as human beings, you know, we're caught in our own ability to transform. We're not just one person. We're 1,000 different people. I know that from being an actor, you know, and I know as an actor, you can play the villain and you can play the hero, and you can understand them both. So that's where this is kind of coming from. It's not a judgmental thing. It's looking at where we are now and what you see in the world. And that really does kind of evoke, it's pleasant. You see it sometimes and you think, it looks so glorious to live in Amalfi and paint your nails and drink pink things, you know. It's called shoegazing. And the title puzzled me at first because I thought, it's kind of a sort of an odd title, gazing at my shoe. And then I thought, that's fascinating because I know that in looking, sometimes when you don't know what you're doing, you're just doing nothing. You just kind of fixate on something. There's a very interesting channel of a liminal place of not being. You're not Margaret, you're not anybody. You're just shoegazing. I thought, oh, that's what it is. But then I read, and it's apparently some music. It's a kind of a music style. Music of the late 80s and 90s, a kind of a low-key genre of music, which makes sense to me, because we don't want to go too much in the title, but just more in my response to it was, it touched me very deeply. The eyes, as opposed to the eyes, or the masked eyes in this painting, the eyelash, that's just one eyelash there, that one eyelash is so eloquent. It is so poetic. It's so achingly revelatory, revealing of this inner life. It's just a taking, you know, a moment where you start to review things, where you take something in. So emotion, it's such an emotional painting for me. It's a very, very quiet emotion, but it's emotion nevertheless. Technically, again, I mean, he's done the demonstration, and you can probably find out any number of sources on the internet, but it's still very mysterious. The kind of limited palette that he uses, his approach, in which he spoke this morning of, was he used to draw very meticulously and then paint on top, but he found the painting to be so tight and limited that he stopped doing that, and he now just boldly draws in with squiggles the shape. And is that something that everybody knows? But you need to go through the first process to get to the second process. So you can't poo-poo it. And it's also, you have to keep going back to the drawing. You have to keep going back to, like, this tight drawing, I'm going to do it tight. I'm going to go through boot camp again. You know, you have to give yourself your own little work to do, especially when you kind of, people are saying, oh, I like your touch, and you go, oh, please, you know, and then you've got to, it makes you want to vomit when you hear it. It really does. And then you have to kind of go to the extreme. It's always about the polarities. There's always the dark and the light. There's always classicism and romanticism. There's a vying going on all the time that you have to follow. And you can't just be the one person. You have to multiply yourself in many ways. Anyway, so just beautiful. Just beautiful. Adrian Giuliani from New York.
New Jersey.
And,
New Jersey.
And New Jersey. New Jersey.
That's where she lives.
Yeah. Anyway, I've seen her work before, and I've seen that she did a lot of teapots for a long time and a lot of vases for a long time. And then I was surprised to see this one because it was a departure in terms of color and in terms of what was happening in the painting. And that was also what I have to admit, like, as a judge, I've come in, after 10 years of coming here, I know a lot of people. And I can tell a lot, I can tell a painting who it belongs to usually without being told that's who the person painted. So when you're judging, you think, how will I deal with that? How will that affect me? I love that boy, so I might want to lean towards him. You know what I mean? It's true. That's what you go along and you think, how is that going to affect me? And one of the things that I thought was just go with it. You know this person, you know she's painted teapots, you know she's painted very interestingly. What's up with her? She's done this amazingly new turnaround. There's something growing that's showing up. And that's what you're all doing. You're all looking for the thing that's going to show up. You're going to transcend. You're going to push through after 1,000 hours, 1,000 teapots, 1,000 bowls of flowers. It's going to come up. And what I really liked about it's very quirky. It's very whimsical to my mind. It's kind of comic in a way because nothing is allowed to be too serious about it. And the yellow light just gives it an enchanting look about it. It's very arresting. It's like some little gorgeous jewel. But what I noticed, what I loved really was the vase, the glass vase, and then the shadow of the vase that looped out in such a sweet way. This is one shape, and then the roses, she calls them roses, are not necessarily roses. They could be like hair clips or something. You know what I mean? They have nothing to do with roses, but they have something to do with the pastel box that she's looked at and she's gone, ooh, red. And she's going, gee. And it's just adorable. You're allowed. You have permission to do all that, because of all this multiplicity of beings that you are. So good old pot of flowers. I thought I would evade flowers, That's another thing. You have to follow your own, as a judge, this is what happened to me. It's like being in your own confessional, and then realizing your own prejudices and your own presumptions, and then having them knocked down, that's not true. You can't come at anything thinking you know what's going to happen, much less a painting. The painting has got to tell you what's going to happen somewhere along the line. Daniel Pease, as a consummate pastel painter, he is using such complexity of color, mark, design, that it is magical. It defies me trying to explain to you how he came at that. I mean, these forms of these tomatoes have been made with such glaze. I'm not sure what kind of mark he uses. I can't see it. I can see it down here, but it's like a Diefenbach. I don't know what they do to get that look, it's just magical. It is so magical that it smells like a tomato. It does. It's tomato, I smell them. that tang that they have. The other thing that he does, which is sort of defies the kind of compositional things like simplify and get things, so there's a focal point, but it is not simple at all. A clustering, a compression of life. It's not life, I'm looking at one tomato or one thing. It's a compression of garden, of the bounty, of the fruit that keeps us alive, that tastes so great. Because there are also other things. There's an onion and flowers and this copper pot, this vessel. What is that vessel doing there? I said that to him. What's that vessel doing there? And he said, I don't know. And he said, I grew the tomatoes. So that's a key. And then he said, I had to buy one of the heirlooms. And it was like this miserable confession. And I understand that. Because in my mind too, it's got to be truth for me. It's got to be the tomatoes that I grew. It can't be the tomatoes from Mars. Do you know that? It's weird, isn't it? Anyway, it is his own mind and his own work, and it's very sensory. It's taste, smell, touch. And it really is the most sensory painting in this exhibition. It really is. It just hits all the senses. And this one, from the beginning, interested me so much. And if that one's sensory, then this one is melodic, it's music, but the music has an ache in it. There's a timbre, there's a tone in it, that strangeness, that more I looked at, I kept thinking, this is so eloquent and speaks to our time so well. I suppose because the sea is not painted in its usual blue. Like Fred Summers will paint blue, and you'll feel the blue, the glaze of blue sky and the blue. This is the end of the day, but this kind of umbery, orangey world is counter to what one's brain thinks of as the edge of the sea. She's so clever at putting so much, like this shape of the house, this wave, which is a natural, wild image, this wild image right next to what we make on our planet. We make these little boxes that we live in there with a window to see that. It's beautiful, but it's so dangerous. It's kind of, in this world where it's smoke in the sky, maybe, but maybe not. It's still very mysterious. She's not preaching, but she's telling me the world is this day has a disquiet about it. It has moments where there's a fire in the distance, and the artists look at the world and they think, wow, the colors are so cool, But it's true, because we are alive, where we are alive, what is happening, and the filtering of our consciousness comes from that. It's just extraordinary. I mean, this wave is just amazing. So it's really a wonderful juxtaposition of nature and man, and also, I mean, in a strange horizontal. So it feels like a music, like Michelle Ashby, again, like Adrian, I've followed her background for some time. She started off doing very, very meticulous paintings of things in another sewing kit reels of cotton and darning needles and things like that. And so meticulous, like probably the most furthest away from what I can do. I can't do that. I can't get there. And she's ended up, after thousands of paintings, and she's prolific. She paints and she paints. She's an incredible draftsman, I think. Her draftsmanship is amazing. And she's got these, she paints with the pastel pencils, I think. And she has a fine touch. I mean, it's one tiny hair's breadth of liquidity that she's applied onto her paper. But the thing that made me think it was just super profound. It looks like the mannequin that was used to make Margaret's men in the suits, you know? That's what I thought of first, is because, and then I thought, it's evocative. It's really sending out questions to everybody, and it's really arousing thinking about man and our measure, the way we contain, measure, and try and know everything for certain. When I read later, she's speaking quite in an activist kind of way, but I could feel that coming through. I could feel something, and well, that's why I gave it the show, because I thought that, you know, in terms of where we are and what we're doing, my feeling is that we should be moving to what it's like to be immediately now, if we can, you know, I mean, to be now, to be moving into this world that we're inhabiting seems to be the next step. Okay.
Thank you.